You're right, Chairman. Thank you.
Good evening, members. And welcome, Councillor Beale. I'm glad that you're on the mend. Agenda item 1, Chairman's notices. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Council on the 22nd, is it? Of February. My name is Councillor Boyce and I'm Chairman of Malden District Council. Members, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference the page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contribution as clear and concise as possible. Thank you. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies have been received from Councillor Edwards, Councillor Keys and Councillor Schemes. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, Chairman. Point of order with regards to part 4, rules of procedure, rule 1, which I'm sure like you will know, refers to meetings.
We're on apologies at the moment.
Chairman, I thought you were about to move on to the next.
No, you put your hand up before I asked members if there was any other apologies.
I'm not sure it'd be right to bring up the minutes of the last meeting, but I'll be guided by you.
If you've got a point of order, you raise that at any time. So if I say agenda item 3, minutes of the last meeting, to confirm the minutes of the council held on the 15th December, pages 11 to 20, and the continuation meeting on the 12th of January, contained on pages 21 to 28.
Seconded.
Thank you. Councillor Fluker first, then Councillor Lagan.
Chairman,
I had my point of order, but I've still got 2 questions on the minutes as well. So, and I think my point of order refers to the whole agenda, Chairman, and not just what we're considering now. But this is part 4, rules of procedure, rule 1, meetings and business of council, and agendas in particular. Chairman, this council has agreed that at all of its meetings, without exception, there will be an agenda item with regards to the Princess Road campus. And I wondered if you could inform council why that's not on this agenda tonight.
I'm not able to do that, Mr. Dodson or Mr. Holmes.
Budget meeting.
No, we're not yet. Mr. Leslie.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah. Okay. That's not the. That's not it. That's just yeah. So the report that came to council last outlined the progress that had been made, and said that council would receive further updates as progress became available. So there isn't further updates to provide, and nothing more than it said in the last report. And it did say that council will receive reports when there is more information to update them on, and there isn't at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't reverse the decision, Mr. Leslie.
Have you any other issues on the minutes, Councillor Fluker?
Thank you, Chairman. On page 18, if you just forgive me a moment. Chairman, this is page 18 and it's minute 457 and it's paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Chairman. And Chairman, first of all, there's a typo in there, I believe, in the first line where it says, which stated it was a level requirement. I think what was said was it was a legal requirement, Chairman.
So that's a typo.
That is a typo, Chairman, but I'd also question the minutes because I did raise a point regarding whether or not, Chairman, it was a legal requirement of members to read reports that went to planning meetings, for example. And the minute's correct insofar as the way it's answered. From
Where is the minute incorrect?
Right, so where the minute is incorrect was that I'm certain that the monitoring officer said that there wasn't a legal requirement for members to do that, and in fact he sent me some case
So you're
law.
saying there's an omission?
Chairman, that's not what I said, and
response.
I've listened to the tape, and it does actually allude to what I just said, but maybe the clerk would like to check that later.
Mr. Quelch.
I think Councillor Fluker is incorrect in his recollection. What I did was I sent him a couple of cases which, although explicitly don't reference the legal requirement, it's implicit in the propositions in those cases that members do have. And I think that's what I said.
Thank you.
Well, I'll circulate the case law.
Councillor Lagan.
Thank you, Chair. Mine's just a couple of points for accuracy. It's on agenda item 3B of the 12th of January 2023, page 26. And for the clerk's reference, it's the single line after the opening sentence. It says that I declare that I'm a member of Adult Community Learning. It's slightly incorrect. What I said is my wife is actually an employee of Adult Community Learning.
Thank
So
you.
just for accuracy.
That will
Thank
be
you.
noted. Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Stevens.
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Emma Stevens, not Emma Thompson, sadly.
That's my mistake.
I think on page 21, the apologies for absence have been missed from the minutes of the Council of the 12th of January.
I noted your email and I'm sure that will be corrected.
Thank you.
Councillor Stam.
Chairman, are we standing, please? It's full
yes,
council,
please.
we should be standing,
Yes,
so
yes.
we need to stand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. This is one that appears on page 20, Chairman, and it's item number, I beg your pardon, page 21. It's item number 2, Chairman, on that page, and it's the second paragraph. Chairman, there seems to be another typo here. It says, referring to the last council meeting, Councillor Fluker requested that should the meeting lasted until 10:30 p.m. Obviously that means last, but it concerns me enormously that somebody is not reading these minutes before they're published. And the second paragraph's not correct. It goes on to say he suggested that for the forthcoming budget meeting that provision be made for an adjourned meeting. I didn't say that. I said we should make provision for the meeting.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
And I think that'll be something that'll be discussed later.
Yeah. Has anybody else got anything on the minutes? No, right. Agenda item 3.
Agreed.
Sorry, is that agreed? Minutes agreed?
Agreed.
And the continuation meeting?
Agreed.
Thank you. Declaration of interests. Now I need to. Yeah, I've got to find the wording. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interest, other disclosable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. And members are also reminded they will be required to disclose any such interest as soon as they become aware, should the need arise through the meeting. Councillor Channer.
Thank you, Chairman. It's on page 3 and it's to do with item 7, Chairman, under B, I believe, and it's actually titled Agenda Item 12, Council Tax Discretionary Discount Levels. Chairman, I declare an interest in as much as due to matters sort of at national level where I may be aware of some things regarding an interest that I may have. Chairman, that I will not speak at all should there be any debate, and I won't be voting on that, Chairman. Could that be registered? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Durham.
Yeah, thank you.
Chairman, it's a non-pecuniary interest, but as a member of Essex County Council, I think it's important to declare, because this authority does have ongoing contracts with the County Council.
Thank you. Right, no other interests. Agenda item 5, public. Councillor Stamp.
Chairman, can I ask for guidance from the monitoring officer? Because I don't think I need to declare, but I would actually ask for guidance. And I think Councillor Fleming may be in the same boat. Councillor Durham obviously does, but I don't. So can I have guidance? Same thing, please, monitoring officer.
Mr. Quelch.
In fact, the terminology is different. It's good for members to remember the correct terminology, first of all. There are 3. It's non-disclosable. It's a disclosable pecuniary interest. It's a registrable interest, and it's a non-registrable interest. Okay, those are the 3 categories within the Code of Conduct. In relation to the specific question, Chairman, you only need to register, if you're a member of Essex County Council or any other local authority, you would register a registrable interest if there is an item on the agenda that specifically touches on your role as a member of Essex County Council. There's no need to declare it if there's nothing on the agenda or you're not aware of anything. If you suddenly become aware of something on the agenda, then you can declare it then.
Thank you. Agenda item 5, public questions. Miss Bird, have we any?
No, Chairman, we have no public questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 6, Chairman's announcements. Members, I'm sad to report the death of 2 past councillors, Councillor Archer, Councillor John Archer, who has been both chairman and leader of this council, and ex-councillor Mrs. Helen Elliott. Could you just stand for a few moments, please? Thank you, members. Over there, hanging on the council wall now, is the King's card to us after the letter of condolences that I sent. So I just bring that to your attention. Thank you, members. Right, now, members, I intend to move... Councillor Stamp, sorry.
Chairman, am I allowed, before Purdah starts, I think this is the last meeting we were allowed to say something, and I'd like to thank you for being the chairman for the past year, because if I say it after, I'm going to get accused of electioneering, but I think it's important that I personally would like to thank you for doing it for another year. Yeah, don't look down and be embarrassed. I think you should be congratulated. It's been a challenging year. So thank you, Chairman.
You. Thank you, Mrs. Stamp. You might think different time. I moved the agenda item 9, which is the budget and medium-term financial strategy. And receive a budget statement from the leader of the council. Now, I think if I've got this right, there is an alternative budget proposal. So what I'm intending to do is have the leader's speech, which will be seconded, have Mr. Leslie say a few words, or a lot of words, but not too many, I hope, and then come to the Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Siddle, to make a response. Then I will ask Councillor Fluker for his alternative budget proposal, and it will be then my intention to take it as one debate and move on to take the vote at a suitable time. Members understand that? Yeah. Thank you. Right, leader.
Speak as quick as I can, Chairman. Just give me a minute, will you, please? Thank you. Do apologise for my cold. Right. Dear Chairman, members and officers, the financial year of 2022-3 will be remembered first and foremost for the cost of living crisis that the country has faced. Like all individuals and institutions, this council has been impacted by the increased costs, which put pressure on the council budget and will also impact on future years. That has, however, not stopped the council from continuing to deliver on the programme of work that I set out in my speech last year, and of which this council, its members and officers can be rightly proud. I set out in my speech at the beginning of this municipal year that 2022-3 would be a year of consolidation, building on the strategic priorities which have been embedded with our recently published commercial strategy, climate action strategy, and the emerging partnership of One Malden District, developed with a view to bring together key partners across the district to address the strategic issues around health, economy and community safety and support that affect us all. I highlighted that the focus would be on health and well-being and quality of life and building social value. We have also progressed the review of our local development plan, approved a reorganisation of our service delivery directorate to improve efficiency in the use of resources and to realign our structure into a more cohesive operational approach. Have also updated our corporate plan. While this was brought forward, it could be delivered so quickly because of the work officers had already done in building the evidence base, ensuring we now have a corporate plan based on clear evidence, with clear priorities, underpinned by clear guiding principles, and a defined golden thread which will steer the council over coming years and enable the budget challenges of future years to be addressed through a clear process of service planning to match resources to priorities. I will return to this theme as it is this evidence-based strategic prioritisation of outcomes and allocation of resources accordingly that will enable this council to navigate the future successfully, not from unevidenced motions rather than sound evidence. The past year has seen the successful development and delivery of the One Malden District Partnership. The partnership brings together key strategic partners across the district, encompassing the public, private and voluntary sectors. The partnership has played a role in the development of the Council's UK Shared Prosperity Fund programme and has been the focus for partnership working in addressing the impact of the cost of living crisis on Malden District residents. The One Malden District Community Services Guide has recently been featured by the Local Government Association as national best practice, alongside the innovative Storage Centre for Household Essentials, which was developed as a community resource. The Community Guide provides key information and support on health and well-being, energy-saving tips, financial support and community groups that can help residents across the district. The work of the partnership is developing and its emerging plan includes priorities including health and well-being, focusing on obesity, mental health and addressing the suicide rate in the district. These issues, as embedded in our corporate plan, are vital to the overall well-being of our communities, and it is through this partnership working, addressing the wider determinants of health such as housing, economic opportunities and community safety that we will address many of the issues and priorities within our corporate plan. Partnership working is enshrined in that document, and One Malden District is our primary partnership for the district. We must also ensure that our services continue to be delivered effectively and complement the wider initiatives and partnership working. This was so clearly demonstrated this year by the way in which the Council took a coordinated approach to the cost of living crisis, supporting the partnership actions above, with the effective management of cost of living grants and support to individuals through our revenues and benefits team and the great work they do. It is this joined up thinking and working that will enable our services to have real impact and protect the quality of life of our residents. Of course, this is just one example, and across the board we have officers working hard to deliver services and support our residents. Whilst this is sometimes challenging, I know our officers strive for excellent services and work hard, whether this is in the office or remotely. Council has also endorsed the Memorandum of Understanding for the establishment of the North Essex Association of Councils. This initiative will bring together the councils across the north half of Essex to work more closely, look at potential for greater strategic alignment and coordination on the key challenges we face: housing, climate and economic growth. It will also explore at pace the opportunities for shared services to increase the capacity and resilience of all the partner organisations. The two partnership examples I have outlined, alongside the service delivery review and the development of the corporate plan, show the work that has gone in by officers and this political administration over the last year to ensure that the council is building the capacity, partnerships and processes to enable us to manage the ongoing pressures that the council will face as costs continue to increase, but real resources reduced. It is so important that we have in place these building blocks, and I have outlined as they will form the strong foundation on which we can build the future of Malden District Council and protect and enhance the quality of life of our residents. The council's new corporate plan puts quality of life at the heart of everything we do as a council. Our vision is to be a sustainable council, promoting growth and investment at every opportunity, to support our communities through excellent partnership working, and to maintain and improve quality of life. The 6 priorities for the council will be supporting our communities, enhancing and connecting our place, helping the economy to thrive, smarter finances, a greener future, provide good quality services. As well as setting out within the document how we will deliver each of these priorities, the whole plan is underpinned by our ways of working. We are committed to running a local authority that puts residents first, is a great place to work, providing quality services whilst working in partnership to support communities. To deliver this plan, we will build on good practice and continue to focus on the needs of our residents, make best use of resources, adopt modern and efficient ways of working, be digitally efficient, deliver commercial projects and be commercially focused, strengthen our partnership working to benefit the district, strive to be modern and innovative, champion our core values as they set our culture and behaviours and support the welfare of our staff and councillors. As a smaller local authority in the county, we will lobby for infrastructure and state our case, bid for funding, be more visible and promote the good work we do. This plan has been shared with all members over the past 2 weeks, and whilst its development was accelerated, it is a clear, robust and evidence-based document that sets out what we will do, how we will do it and how we will measure success, and it also sets out the process through which we'll allocate our resources. As such, it will provide the blueprint for the ongoing success of the council. Given its importance, I'm asking the Chairman of the Council please to move the approval of the plan up the agenda for this Council to be heard immediately following the budget items. So to the budget itself. The budget has been developed through a collegiate and inclusive approach encompassing officers and members and utilising the Finance Working Group, Strategy and Resources Committee and all member budget briefings before being brought here today for approval of Council. As leader, I have ensured that the Finance Member Working Group has included representatives from across the Council, including Conservatives, Independents and those members unaligned to groups. The approach taken has been to develop a balanced budget that protects services while also seeking savings and efficiencies. Some of these savings include increased income from council assets, increased income from recycling, a reduction in staffing numbers where efficiencies have been realised. The Council is also using its reserve to maintain vital services to the public in the face of cost of living crisis and allow proper and strategic review of budgets next year. Investment in public assets is also included, such as a new play equipment. The council tax increase is well below inflation and equates to an additional 12p a week. It is part of an overall strategy that the budget avoids rash service cuts and salami slicing of budgets. That old-fashioned approach is counterproductive and has no place in sensible budget making and is unlikely to be in the public interest. This budget, alongside the structural changes agreed for the Service Delivery Directorate, protects services and builds resilience. Of course, we will have to make savings in future years, but for the coming year, we have brought stability and resilience and put in place those strong foundations I referred to earlier that will enable the Council to review future models for delivery and reap the benefits of partnership working, the introduction of shared services and overheads, maximise the potential for appropriately outsourced services and build a cohesive and efficient business model for the future within the resources available. To facilitate this approach, this budget is underpinned by the appropriate use of reserves, which is fully justified in the current cost of living crisis, as it utilises reserves built up over recent years and which belong to the local community as well as the council, and which we now protect services for residents in these hard-pressed times. We will of course use the processes and the plans set out already in this speech to ensure ongoing sustainability for the council in the future years. With these strong foundations in place, the Council is well placed for the future. I referred earlier to the inclusive, encompassing work through representation on the Finance Working Group of Conservatives, Independents and Unaligned. Likewise, the Strategy and Resources Committee. Now is not the time for individual political point scoring. This budget, this time, now provides us an opportunity to show how we can collaboratively and successfully, as a council, in the most challenging of times, deliver support and the best outcomes for the residents of the Malden District. I thank Councillor White, the Chairman of Strategy and Resources Committee, and Mr Leslie, Director of Resources, and his team for all their hard work throughout the budget process. Chairman, I commend this budget to the Council for approval.
Is that seconded?
Seconded,
Councillor White,
Chairman.
thank you. Right, Mr Leslie, I think I said next.
Thank you, Chairman. Would it be possible to sit down? Just for
Yes, please do.
Chairman. Right. Thank you, members. I will read most of this out, so don't feel you'll be missing anything if you cannot see the screen. I just want to remind members of the engagement that's taken place. We've had regular updates to S&R Committee, monthly meetings of the Finance Working Group. We've had all member budget briefings in November and January, where members could ask questions, see the budget and follow up. And we've had the budget presented to S&R in January as well. So I don't plan to repeat what you've had there before, but I do think it's important just to give you a layout of actually the reports that are going, so you can see how they all tie in, really, and that's what I'll be focusing on, the individual reports that are presented to you today. Okay, so at the agenda item 9A, the capital investment strategy and the minimum revenue provision statement. The capital strategy sets out the capital expenditure and how it will be funded. And the investment strategy sets out the forecast level of investments and expected return. That investment strategy should be considered in conjunction with the Treasury Management Strategy, which is a following item as well. And finally, the MRP, the minimum revenue provision statement, shows the council has no borrowing requirement. We are required to have an MRP statement, which shows the council has no underlying capital borrowing requirement. You will see some figures in the MRP. That is due to accounting with embedded leases. It relates to some leases within the waste area that we have to account for as an embedded lease, but that is not the borrowing requirement that relates to us having to borrow. That's a lease and accounting issue. So just make you aware of that. But in terms of the Appendix 2, Appendix A, we have new capital items going forward and their expenditure there as well, but that's all laid out in the Appendix 2 and then Appendix A to that. 9B is the Treasury Management Strategy. Treasury management is the management of cash flows, borrowing and investments, and of course the risks associated with those. It includes risk management measures within that, investment limits, which cover both time, sector and counterparty sector, being, say, for example, building societies, and counterparty, say, being an individual building society. So that's the type of risk management that's in the Treasury Management Strategy, along with credit ratings as well, so that we have investments with credit-worthy agencies, and that's determined within the strategy. We also have a variety of indicators within the Treasury Management Strategy. For example, the average portfolio credit score, and also if we were to undertake any refinancing, indicators around that. Not that we need to do any refinancing because we do not have the borrowing. And also Appendix 2, the Treasury Management Practices are set out, and they're the ones defined by the Treasury Management Code. So that's set out there at Appendix 2 of the report. Item 9C, really the budget side of it. So there's a variety of appendices that go along with that. So Appendix 1 is really that high-level revenue summary that you'll see. So if you want a very high-level summary overview, that's Appendix 1. Appendix 2 and 3 go into the service level details. So at a net service level, you can drill down on the individual details there around services. Appendix 4 deals with the forecast use of our earmarked reserves and also the purpose of those reserves. So you can see all those reserves, the forecast, and why they're held as well. Appendix 5, I'll come on to Appendix 5, but that is a Section 25 effectively statement, so my assurance statement around the robustness of budget and adequacy of reserves. I'll come on to talk about that in a minute. And Appendix 6 is the budget survey. Within the budget report itself, it sets out for next year an expected opening general fund balance of 4.7 million, a contribution from the reserves to maintain services of 421,000, leaving a closing general fund balance of around 4.3 million forecast at the end of next year. There's a table at paragraph 3.6.3, which shows the budget changes from this year to next year. So that's a useful table where you can see the changes and assumptions built in there. Back to the assurance statement, Appendix 5. That really focuses on the robustness of the estimates within there and highlights risks and other factors. Certainly inflation is a key risk, so that's one that's picked up within the appendix side of it. Also, it features into the pay award as well. That's another significant risk, so it outlines some of those risks within that. I have highlighted business rates income, so there's one area where actually there's potential for higher income than we forecast, but at this stage, without further information, that's not prudent to put any more in. So I think that's one area to actually where there is a positive that we could see in the future rather than a negative. The last section of the report I think is a very important one. It does discuss obviously the ongoing use of reserves and the need to address them in the future to present them falling below the minimum level that's recommended within that assurance statement, and we've covered some of the actions previously that are being taken to address that. 9D, the council tax, well, that's essentially the council tax levels, but it covers all of the precepting authorities. Precepting are those ones that receive council tax, which set their council tax levels. It has the statutory council tax calculation in it. Malden has a 2.99% increase, which equates, as has previously been said, to around about an additional 12p a week for the average Band D property. 9E, the medium-term financial strategy, is what it says on the tin. Appendix 1 is the medium-term financial strategy. It's a 3-year forecast based on assumptions and the current position. Appendix 2 lists some of the growths and the reasons that they're included within that area. I have just flagged out some of the figures that we talked about before. Obviously, we can see that increasing gap, opening them up based on a do-nothing scenario, and of course some assumptions around the decline in funding. Obviously, we're not going to do nothing. We're going to address some of those through the plans, revisit some of the assumptions, and work towards closing that gap. But that's work which is ongoing. Appendix A of the medium-term financial strategy provides details of the year-to-year changes as well around that, and I think that's an important one where you can see what the changes are, some of the assumptions involved around that as well. And that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you. Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chairman. We all know that there's a cost of living crisis, and that, like all organisations and people, has put pressure on us and has increased the pressure on our finances. The leader of the council asked me not to score political points. I'm afraid I can't do that. Yeah, I have to, really. One of the interesting things that she mentioned was about the One Malden partnership. That's a great initiative. Unfortunately, it was delayed by a year by the Conservative group, because when it first came to this council, they voted against it. So we've got this fantastic partnership now, which is in place. However, that partnership was delayed and could have been in place a lot sooner. I'm pleased that we were collaborative in terms of the council budget and it going through S&R and the finance working group, and we've agreed the current finances. That's about necessity because we are a council of no overall control. So we have to work in that way. I tried to work in that way over a year or so ago with the leader of the council, but I was rebuffed in terms of trying to ensure that happened. By taking this approach, we ensure that we focus on delivery for our services and for the immediate future. Although the budget has been set by the committee process and now full council, well hopefully, at times that process has not been smooth. It seemed that those administering the council and chairing were at times unclear as to what their approach might be. There was a lot of contradiction and confusion during that process. I heard people talking at S&R and then disagreeing with that at the next finance working group, and then coming to S&R and going back to the other point. It's important to recognise that it is not a long-term solution, and that we need to ensure our budgets are set intelligently and that they deliver for the district. I'm pleased that the leader has quoted my phrase of salami slicing, with no thought. If we do that, there'll be no thought for the impact on the organisation. When the cost-cutting exercise, or the transformation, as the Conservative administration called it, took place a few years ago, it was portrayed as a way of creating the financial security the council required. If that was the case, we would not be looking how in the next couple of years we need to be extremely careful with how the council conducts its finances and services. The exercise spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on consultants and cut our staff to the bare minimum. At the same time, the tangible benefits were not clearly established and the corporate projects were not defined as part of the Ignite project, just as an aspiration. Due to COVID and the lack of resources, the corporate projects were not delivered at an early stage. So 3 years on, there's been little tangible benefit there. At the same time, there was £372,000 that has been written off as benefits that Ignite identified but were never established. We spent a huge amount on redundance costs, where we removed staff and services, which now turns out to be misplaced. Over the past year, even the Conservatives realised that the Ignite structure does not work, and that now the organisation has had to be redesigned in the way that MDC currently is, and the structures on the council disable how the council operates. We have had to recruit new staff so that we are able to function effectively. As residents know, at times, because of the lack of resources, we've been able to meet their needs. I know staff at the council have endeavoured to meet the requirements of the district and worked really hard to do that, to meet the service requirements. They have to be recognised what they have to do under very difficult circumstances when they have been pressurised in terms of resources. The strategy that had been developed just before I was elected was a very corporate wish list, which officers worked hard to mould into strategic themes. These themes had to be simplified whilst the independents were for a brief time administering the council. As they were too complex, there was no way that all of them could be implemented. Over the past year, the council seemed to have been adrift, with no defined strategy coming from those administering the council, creating a void. We now seem to be filling that void with numerous motions coming to council, with a lot of these causing extra work for officers when we don't have the resources, therefore exacerbating the resourcing situation at the council. The corporate plan is fantastic that's come forward. However, it's been officer-led. It's not been member-led, it's not been the leadership-led, it's been led by the officers. In terms of the infrastructure, I find that shocking that we mention that infrastructure where we have been so badly let down by the Conservatives at this council and the Conservatives at Essex County Council, who have not delivered the infrastructure that this district needs. We need to establish how we share our services, as all councils are in a similar position. This has not been helped by the government over the past 13 years, with a reduction of funding to local authorities, no long-term funding coming from the central government, with no strategic vision from them. The message you currently have is use your reserves. That's what they're there for. Well, that's really great coming from central government. We are actually in a much better position than other authorities, despite certain members in the current administration declaring publicly that we are on the verge of financial collapse. Chris Leslie has shown tonight that that is not the case. We need to ensure that in future our resources are clearly connected to strategy and that we can deliver in a measured and sustainable way. Based on the record of the Conservatives in the past few years, I have no faith in them delivering that, and I hope the electorate can see that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Siddle. That's one of the most robust responses to previous speech I've heard. Councillor Fluker, would you like to move your alternative budget motion, please?
Circulate it now as well.
Oh, right, yes.
Chairman, I think we're in slightly unknown territory, but this Leslie appears to be...
It's all right, we just circulate. You can speak.
No, I've just circulated
the
it.
amendments.
So I've just circulated the amendment to the budget. Chairman, first of all, I've just emailed you all the amendments to the budget. You should have them on the system there, and Excel. No, it's too weird. Can I remind you that this council decided a long time ago that we would be paperless, and I've actually sent them out by email. Chairman, first of all, can I pay tribute to Councillor Siddle, because he clearly brought forward a budget statement, and it's fascinating hearing all the information from the leader, but a lot of it I would have expected to hear in her leader's speech, or whoever does that in a couple of months' time, and I'm sure that won't be a Tory. Chairman, the amendments I've brought forward tonight, I've done this for two reasons. One, to demonstrate to members, and as I said before, Chairman, that I don't think anybody's ever done this, certainly not during the 12 months that I've been, 12 years since I've been on the council. But when we're looking at cost savings and income, Chairman, these were, and I think members need to understand this, because there's been much talk about finance working groups and subcommittees, strategy and resources, and all of these things, total member involvement. However, the savings that were brought forward through the three appendices that went to strategy and resources were and came from CLT and the senior managers. None of them were driven by members. This was confirmed in a report that went to SNR. Mr. Leslie's confirmed this to me. So there was no member policy with regards to the savings. Chairman, where I am tonight, Chairman, is that quite simply, Chairman, I've brought forward a series of savings through amendments, which, I mean, I'm not sure if you want me to go through these one by one. Well, I'm grateful for Councillor Durham. Councillor Durham is quick. Councillor Durham is quick to criticise, but one of them is a reduction in members' allowance. And he was very keen to take the Vice Chairman's allowance, but I noticed he's only been to 6 out of 8 meetings.
Councillor Fluker.
Yes, Chairman.
As I described, you're moving an alternative budget motion.
I am indeed. So then I need to go through everything then. Thank you, Chairman.
You have a 5-minute slot to put your motion, and you've already taken about 4.
Well, Chairman, can I ask you to consider the Constitution, Article 5, 3C? Thank you, Chairman. And if you're going to rule on that, then I'd be more disappointed than anybody else. Chairman, so my proposal, Chairman, brings a cost saving of £637,000. This is against the projected deficit of 452,000. So my amendments produce a surplus of over 600,000. Chairman, there is a homeless, crisis, emergency in this district, and one thing I'd like to have done, Chairman, if we could have actually achieved this budget, would be to have used part of that money to support a proposed homeless infrastructure project. And I actually think that's the type of thing we should be doing. So, Chairman, that is if you're going to cut me off, tell me to sit down and I will. But I still would like to go through some of these.
I'm letting you go on.
Oh, thank you very much. So I'll be quick.
Not too long.
Chairman, I'll just go through them, Chairman. There's a huge amount of information to go through.
No,
Councillor Herb, I hate you to miss what I'm about to say.
I'm just looking at your notes.
Chairman, I'll be quick. But
please be very quick.
Yes, I will,
by
Chairman.
By the way, is your motion seconded? Because I've said you're moving a motion, not an amendment.
Chairman, I've read the rules. There's nothing to say. The amendment to the budget comes forward as a motion. It's an amendment to the budget. The members can vote for it or not. If you want to say now that this is a motion to council, then why doesn't it have to be delivered in a timely way like motions to council? Which brings me on to another point, Chairman, and that is we need to go and visit the rules about bringing forward amendments. We shouldn't be sitting here tonight with a big pile of paper. We shouldn't have a cut-off time after the date for motions. I'm quite happy to go through this. Maybe somebody will second it, maybe they won't. But each amendment, Chairman, has to be taken in its own right. So we can't vote for the whole lot, because some of this will have to be done in P&C. So, Chairman, I look towards your guidance, but I hope you'll be fair and proper with me.
I think is this motion seconded to start with? Right.
Seconded.
So that's seconded. So now you can have another 5 minutes giving a speech, as did the leader and the opposition leader, although they're allowed 15 minutes, but because I've ruled that you're moving a motion and not an amendment, you only have 5 minutes, but I'll give you 5 minutes from now.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm mindful of the fact that I can't speak to some of these items, Chairman, in public session. Chairman, can you stop the clock? Thank you.
Yep. I'm just being told what will need to go into confidential.
Chairman, my understanding is that we have to go into P&C, but only for items A and B, 7, 14, 17 and 18, which I'm happy to do.
Yeah.
And whilst I'm speaking to the advice of the 151 officer, I'd like to thank him for his support over the last few days. So, Chairman...
is there a point of order, Councillor Swain?
Yes, I understood that this is a motion, it should be on the agenda.
No. I think the Constitution says a motion or amendments can come forward, providing they're delivered in 3 days. Councillor Durham and then Councillor...
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to get in the way of Councillor Fluker, because I'm sure we all want to hear what he has to say. But as it's my understanding that alternative budgets have to have agreement of the 151 officer. Can I ask whether this has been presented to him for his assessment?
I mean, I'll let him answer, but yes.
Thank you. So the alternative proposals have come forward to myself. I have reviewed them and we have the officer comments against them, and I think they have to be taken in context of the comments. So for some of them we have been unable to give assurance as to the figures around that, and that's reflected in the comments of the officers, and also certainly around there's some capital items as well, and capital items cannot fund revenue, so they clearly could not be taken forward as revenue savings.
Councillor Stanton and Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chairman. Can we have clarity on the process? Are we allowed to talk on each amendment or each thing? Because I'm totally confused.
I'm taking it as en bloc, as I've said. I'm afraid that's my ruling, and I stated that at the beginning. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. I would say that I'm very confused as well. So I'm looking at something on my screen. I've got an A3 pack here. I've got an A4 pack here. I'm not a great financier anyway. Some of the numbers have become hash signs. I don't know what I'm looking at. Somebody's going to need to walk me through this. Otherwise, at the end of it, I'll just abstain anyway. Thank you.
The S&R, the budget that the leader put forward has been through, as Councillor Siddle eloquently said, several processes. This has come forward in secret under our Constitution, so the 151 officer has dealt with it, but members have had no input or understanding of it. So Councillor Fluker cannot, in my view, he can put it forward en bloc, but he cannot expect the council to sit tonight and do 6 months of work that has previously been done. Councillor Durham again.
Thank you, Chairman.
I'm only dealing with points of order.
It is a point of order because Mr. Leslie has says that some of these are not legal. We cannot use capital to fund revenue, etc. So if we're taking them on block, this budget hasn't satisfied the 151 that it is.
That was the indication I got from him.
Well, then we can't debate it then, Chairman, can we?
But I think Councillor Fluker's argument, and it's not for me to say what his argument is because he's quite eloquent in putting his own argument, is that if he goes through line by line, he might get one or two things through.
It's not.
Sorry? No, I know. Would you like to try and encapsulate your proposals, Councillor Fluker?
Well, Chairman,
Otherwise, I think I'm going to have to rule it as not.
Yeah, look, Chairman, I think that what Councillor Durham says is quite right, and I think he looks at it from a member's perspective the same as I do. I'm sure that it was meant more passionately than anything else, but when you said secretive amendments, and the Constitution says they have to remain confidential. Until we get to this meeting. So there's nothing secretive about this. But I think what this highlights is two things. That it was possible to make a huge amount of savings that we didn't identify. All of the savings that have been identified were led by the officers through 3 appendices at Strategy and Resources. Nobody can argue that. That's what happened. Members did not bring forward any savings. And yes, it could be argued, and people could say to me, well, you were at various meetings and everything else. And some of those meetings, I did mention some of these items. And I will be absolutely honest, fair and frank, Chairman, that some of these items are actually lifted from CLT's appendices number 2 and 3, which were discounted, some by them and some by members. So, Chairman, there's a bit more in this than meets the eye. But I really do think, and I'm sure the monitoring officer's got his ears on, but there just seems to be an issue around the procedure rules or the rules of the procedure here about the way this happens. Clearly, it is not right. We can't have a situation, I don't think, when you can bring forward these amendments at the last hour. I mean, I've not had an opportunity to read Mr. Leslie's response, but I respect him as the officer's comments. But, I respect him as the 151 officer, and I think he's to be commended on the way that this budget's come through. But, I thought I was bringing forward, Chairman, 19 amendments to the budget individually. It was never meant that they should be. It was never meant that they should be looked at individually. I mean, I'm more than happy to do that. And if you want to take the council into P&C, I'll speak to the items that are private and confidential. Which
I think, Councillor Fluker, I've got to rule that your
well, Chairman, before you do that, before you do that, can I just say to you then, Chairman, I think that based on the governance that surrounds this, I will say, Chairman, as a compromise, that the 151 officer considers these amendments when after we've agreed the budget tonight, and it goes off to one of these lovely working groups to be considered, Chairman. And if it helps you, Chairman, I'll withdraw the amendments in the best interest of council.
That would
no, I've withdrawn.
That would
if you're
be
happy,
very helpful. Members agree?
Well, it wasn't exactly allowed.
Then members, we've got the debate on the budget proposals. Are there any questions or comments from anybody on the leader's budget? Councillor Durham.
Well, Chairman, thank you very much. I think we're just getting back on track now, aren't we? Congratulations to the leader of the opposition and the officers for working together, because there has been collaborative working to get a balanced budget as the law dictates. But I'm not really worried about this year's budget, Chairman. I'm worried about the ever-increasing gap that is going to be facing us. We have seen today another district borough council effectively going bankrupt. Woking today with debts of £2.2 billion. £2.2 billion just out of interest, they have £62 million a year in interest repayments, and their council tax receipts are 39 million. But anyway.
And we are still debt free.
And we are debt free. But, Chairman, there is the problem, because we have to fill those future gaps. If we don't want to borrow to invest, and we know the pitfalls of that, the government want us to use our reserves. They've actually said that the council should be using their reserves to provide resident services. But we're a small authority with small reserves. That is not long-term sustainable. So what do we do? How do we close this gap? We unfortunately have to cut our costs. We have to cut the costs, and I'm afraid cutting the costs, with the cost cutting, is going to mean service cuts. This morning, I happened to bump into Gavin Jones, who you will know is Chief Executive of Essex County Council. He was the Commissioner for Slough, the Commissioner for Thurrock. He was the one that told me about Woking, and I said, goodness me, Gavin, why? What is happening? Because there are lots more councils in that position. And he said to me, fundamentally, there are lots of reasons, but fundamentally it's because the members in those authorities failed to recognise or failed to undertake the costs that they needed to, the cuts they needed to bring forward in order to balance their budget. They had too many precious projects and they didn't take the cuts when they were necessary. As I said, there are lots of other reasons why, but fundamentally that was the issue. Another issue was actually a disconnect between the members and the officers. That is the reason why we have Woking, Thurrock, Slough, Croydon, and probably a half a dozen more authorities this year getting into a financial situation. So I'm really concerned, and it's an appeal to the next members in this chamber, in actual fact, are going to have to sit down and look long and hard at their costs. And we are going to have to make cuts. We are going to have to be realistic, because I don't think anybody here is going to advocate taking out big loans to get commercial property or commercial projects, because we've seen what that's going to deliver. We haven't got the low-hanging fruit. We went through transformation. There isn't anywhere else to go. So it's a warning, Chairman, that times are very tough, and we're going to have to take very tough, very brave decisions as members in the coming years.
Thank you, Councillor Swain, then Councillor Stamp.
Can I just add, Chairman, just so and some of Councillor Fluker's cost-cutting ideas may well be necessary in the future, and we are going to have to look at things as dramatic as he is suggesting.
Councillor Durham, I tend to agree. To be a councillor, sometimes you need to take hard decisions, and if you haven't got the bottle to do that, then you shouldn't be sitting in a council chamber. Councillor Swain.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. First of all, looking through these, I see that most of them, well, not all of them, have come up at the Finance Working Group and S&R, and they were looked at and scrutinised by members. So it's not right to say this is entirely officers' ideas. Members looked at these and said, yes, we agree with that, we don't agree with that. But secondly, with regard to Councillor Durham's comment, yes, some big decisions are going to have to be made in order to restore the situation for the year after next. That is to say, after this budget year that Mr. Leslie is putting forward, and the years after that. And work is being done. I mean, the corporate plan will have to be refined to actually provide any meaning for implications for services and expenditure. Mr. Leslie has been doing a lot of work on trying to evaluate what we have to do and what we could choose not to do. But given where we are now, just with May coming up, these are matters the new council will have to take up, including looking at the individual items that Councillor Fluker has itemised here, and which have come up as S&R before. But I mean, we can't sort of unpick the budget piecemeal like this. So I would move that the motion be put to approve the budget.
Councillor Stamp and Councillor Lagan.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm afraid I actually disagree with the budget. I actually do think we should be starting with a balanced budget. Yes, I totally agree that we've had all these finance meetings and we've done everything by the book. But I think we've all attended meetings up and down the country, whether we're in person or on Zoom with other council and other council leaders. And I think it's really important. We're starting off with how much are we losing this year? 600,000 deficit, and then it goes on to whatever, I can't remember what it is. It goes on to couple of million, and I think we were the ones who asked for the services to the services that we need to provide, and the ones that I call a luxury months ago. And I welcome Mr. Leslie, that he's actually looking at that now. But that should, I know, sorry, Chairman, I'm really tired. I do apologise, Chairman. But the thing is, we should have been doing that before this budget has been announced. And yes, I do agree that we are starting to work together, but it's taken a hell of a long time, and we have wasted a lot of time on commercial projects. Look at Princess Road. How long has that been in the pipeline to be looked at? There's lots of money that this council have wasted. I'm sorry, Chairman, but I'm saying that as it is, and I will not support this budget because I don't think it goes far enough. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Lagan.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of comments, really, because it's it's the last budget I'll be involved in as a councillor in this administration, and I think it's incredibly important to mention this. There's a couple of comments that have come out. I think, and I'm not political, because the transformation, I wasn't about when transformation was decided. That happened. You look back over your shoulder and be informed, but you want to create a future that you want to live into. And I think that cutting is such a simple way of saving a few pounds or some substantial amounts of money, but you've got to think of the unintended consequences. If you look at what the directors are dealing with after transformation, with the lack of resources, in essence, to be able to fully deliver what needs to be done, and that they're still being able to achieve the objectives of those roles, is absolutely phenomenal. So I'll be very mindful, if we just go in and we look at cutting, what pressures are going to be put on individuals. There's mental health issues as well that can go along with that. So I just say to members past and present and future, just be really careful. And I think you said, Chairman, which is rather unusual for you, it takes a bottle to make a decision.
Sorry?
You said it takes a lot of bottle. You shouldn't be a councillor if you don't. I like bottles because I'm very partial to what's in them. But, and after being a councillor for these years, I've certainly had my fair share. But all joking aside, it doesn't take bottle, it takes great courage and strength to do that, but it also takes information and be really well informed. Now, I don't want to see us cut to the bone. I'd like to see, when it goes forward, because this budget gives us a statement of where we are at the moment and what could potentially happen going forward, not what definitely will happen. So I just think we need to be very measured in it, and I agree with what Councillor Siddle said. I agree with an awful lot of what Councillor Fluker said, but I also think we just got to tread very, very, very carefully as we go forward into the next few years, and don't just rely on cuts, because that's a very short-term objective. We know devolution's probably coming, but let's not worry about that until it comes. Let's look at how we can administer the council properly.
Thank you, Councillor Lagan. Anybody else? Councillor White, as seconder of the motion.
No, I was wanting to speak, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, as you all know, I'm currently the chairman of the Financial Working Group and Strategy and Resources, and I actually seconded this budget because it has been fully evidenced and it has been fully worked out. The Finance Working Group and Strategy and Resources have worked hard with all officers and members to resolve this budget. And you have to remember, on this committee, there are 7 independents and 4 Conservatives. So it's interesting that it appears to be the independents on this committee who don't like the budget. I've spoken to several members today from Strategy and Resources and the Finance Working Group, even as late as on the drive here, as they're asking my views on the budget. And as I said, as I've thought about it long and hard, and I think this is the best budget. Now, in his speech earlier, Councillor Siddle says all the financial woes were over the last 3 years. But let's be quite clear on this. Councillor Siddle was the chairman of Strategy and Resources Committee from November 2020 until May 2022, when I managed to get elected, which I'm very honoured to have had the job. So we are actually picking up a lot of the issues that were caused earlier, and we are taking them forwards. This budget has been evidenced during all these committees, and everybody, and even the dissenters, sit on this committee. I'm really disappointed that some of these options brought forward tonight, actually, I quite like some of them, and I'm just disappointed they didn't come through the working group and the committee, because I suspect that several of these could have been incorporated, but it's too late tonight. But the only thing I will say is it's a working budget, and even before the election, who knows what the political landscape's going to be after then, we can bring these forwards and we can discuss them. The corporate plan, which was brought forward in a matter of weeks by Mr Leslie and the other officers working hard with members, is another fluid plan. We can add these changes in if we think they're going to work. But let's be clear, we must not be parochial. We must not have pet projects that we fancy in our ward. What we must do as a whole is focus on the residents in our district. We must focus on protecting the people and supporting the people who need protecting in our district. We must move away from being parochial and local to just the very small projects that really are vanity. So moving forward, let's work together. Let's look at these options that we have here, and let's make sure we get the best bang for our buck and we support the residents who need it, both working and any other residents. We must support everybody that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. Just on the budget now.
You haven't spoken on the budget, although it might seem so. So I'm allowing you to speak.
Chairman, I'm glad you noticed that I was speaking to an amendment earlier, and I look forward to the corporate governance working group listening to the tape to try and unravel what we've actually got, which isn't very easy to work with regards to amendments. I think one of the most heartening things I've seen in Mr Leslie's report is that I'm not sure he gives him his own support, but he does say that £34,000 worth of savings are achievable on an annual basis with regards to the members' allowances. So I'd leave all of you to think that through. That's a lot of money. And when you look at how much money we're spending or trying to raise for the homeless and other issues, that is a lot of money. It's a huge amount of money. Chairman, I do hope, Chairman, that moving forward, the new administration, when it takes over in May, starts by thinking about the importance of having a challenging and balanced budget. I know with the figures that we're looking at, that doesn't seem possible. But my question is, if we never had the reserves, how would we get to the stage where we can afford to write off £2.5 million? And I think going forward, we need to understand what borrowing is going to look like and how we would fund those budget gaps. But Chairman, we have a budget now. So I just want to make sure Southminster can hear. We have a budget now, Chairman, that increases parking charges. It increases members' allowances, Chairman, which I think costs £10,000 this year. And it increases council tax, and it points towards using £2.7 million from reserves in a couple of years. And I think, Chairman, I represent, as you know, one of the most, I'm going to struggle with the word, deprived areas in Essex. That's not my talk, Chairman, that is what Essex County Council have said, and you can see that if you look at the Southminster Pavilion planning application. They say that quite a bit. So all of these costs, they add up, Chairman. I believe that it was possible, Chairman, to find savings so that we could have saved this money. So, Chairman, based on that, I'm sorry, I can't support what should be a Conservative budget. The leader of the Conservative group has delivered it, so I presume it is a Conservative budget, although I think the savings were officer-led, and I'll always say that. So I am sorry, Chairman, because of those principal increases and the members, and I can have the debate if you want at some other time, or even during the nighttime economy somewhere, but you know, we need to look at what we're actually doing in relationship to the allowances that we receive. It has changed dramatically. I know Councillor Civil said I claim more mileage than anybody else and everything else. I put him right because I lost so much money on my car when I part exchanged it. But, Chairman, we need to look at that. And we need to look at where we can make savings everywhere. And I hope that message is carried forward to the new administration. And I hope I'm part of that. And if I am Chairman, the first person I'll thank is Linda Paling. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Any other member? I think we come... Sorry? I think we come back to the leader to sum up, if she so wishes.
Oh, yes, Chair. Oh, yes, Chairman. Yes, I will sum up. Thank you very much. Firstly, I'll try and cover all of Councillor Siddle's points, but I'm sure he may actually assist me here, should I leave any out. Hold on a minute, I can't read my own writing.
You've got 5 minutes, leader.
Is that all I've got? Oh, Chairman,
you've only got 5 minutes.
You've been very lenient with others, Chairman. I would have hoped, like with Councillor Fluke, you might give me the same affordability of that. So, right, Councillor Siddle, totally right, cost of living crisis, and it has put obviously pressure on us as well as an authority. But I think through my leader's speech, I do hope you can see what this authority has done regarding that, and we've all recognised the important thing for us all to be doing during this time is supporting our residents through the cost of living crisis. That is what is most important to them. There was a survey done of our residents and they were asked for the top 3 items, and indeed cost of living was at the very top. So I'm glad we're able to do that. Regarding the One Malden partnership, it was delayed by your Conservatives again for 1 year. Now, yes, there was a delay, but actually there were several reports on this, Councillor Siddle, I think you may recall. In fact, I think was Councillor Stamp the leader then, I don't know, because during this time of since 2019 there's been 5 leaders, of which I'm the 5th. And the One Malden partnership, in fact, what happened was there was not enough detail when it first came forward. It wasn't clear on the membership who exactly it was and the MOU and the terms of reference. And in fact, there was concern about members' democratic accountability being on there. It did come back then at a later date following that, and it was very pleasing to see that not only was the leader on there, but the leader of the opposition, and I'm sure you appreciate that because at the launch, which happened in March, that enabled you to attend as well as the leader, and also Councillor Stilts and Councillor Thompson were allowed to be there for the launch, although they're not members of it generally, but it was all inclusive. So I thank you for that. Regarding the fact that about a year ago, I as leader, you came to me and said I didn't accept an offer. Well, there was an offer on the table from you, Councillor Siddle. I won't go into all the detail, but there was various, all I can say is, disbalance going on from what I understand. In fact, various people leaving groups, and in fact, people speaking to me from the independents, in fact, some people trying to come over. And indeed, at that point, what the offer was, as I think we made it clear in our discussion going forward as to the reasons why not. And I won't go on to another point. It was about also a particular meeting that took place. And at that time, the meeting involved someone who's no longer on this council. So I won't go any more on that. Transformation you raised, and being about Conservative coming forward and how that hasn't really worked. I think what happened with the transformation, that was under Councillor Fluker, and indeed it sort of took off in 2019. I recall committees actually coming forward, the changes in committees in October 2019, and what happened there was then we had COVID strike in March 2020 and had total shutdown. So I just raised those points there. Regarding the district and recognising things, and the administration of this council, I would hope my speech did actually cover off several items. We've got Councillor Durham talking about cuts and everything. I think I referred to savings, but also what I set down and made clear, I hope, was the foundations that are going forward in terms of all those plans, commercial strategy. We've got events and concessions. We've got our corporate plan. It's all very clear how this will do, and what is very clear is going forward into the future, our priorities, our corporate plan, our priorities must align with resources and the services. And going forward, we know there's a service review undergoing at the moment, and that's being done under the Finance Working Group. In fact, the first lot of reviews have come forward, officers are still working at, and that is very instrumental going forward for members regarding budgets in the future, with all the exact information. Sorry, Chairman, there's some disturbance at the back there. With all the exact information for members to make considered prudent decisions on. Councillor Fluker and his budget that he's now withdrawn, his alternative, thank you. Amendments, well, I call it alternative budget because that's what it looks like to me. I'm glad...
Point of order, Chairman, I need a correction for the benefit of the tape. That is out of order. It's not a budget. So can you please clarify that for the tape?
That was the alternative. I understood proposal. It says a proposal. Right, okay.
Please, it was. I did not take it as an amendment, Councillor Fluker.
Yes.
I made it quite clear. I took it as a.
Chairman, I could have only delivered it as an amendment because Mr. Quelch will confirm that under that particular part of rule, whatever it is, which Mr. Leslie alluded to, I can only bring forward an amendment. Thank you.
No, that's not what it says. Leader, would you please sum up and
yeah, well, I'm trying to sum up, Chairman. For me, the most... Well, certain other people have had longer, so I'm hoping the Chairman might afford me the same for fairness in the chamber, and he normally does. So what I'd like to say is actually, for me, Mr. Leslie summed it up. There cannot be given assurance to all of these figures in here, and indeed we've heard some may not even be legal. So that is in itself a concern, although I hear what's been said going forward. Regarding Councillor White, the chairman of SNR and also the chairman of the Finance Working Group, I agree with most things that Councillor White said. We are here for our residents. We're not here for us, we are here to represent our residents, and we have to do the best for our residents that we are. And the budget I put tonight, I hope, assured you that is the case. It was a collegiate budget. In fact, it was independents and Conservatives, as I pointed out, and members on the non-aligned on that. And I think that was Councillor Stamp, I can recall certainly being there, and Councillor Fluke himself, and points have been made there. What I would like to say regarding savings coming forward, what I can tell you is almost all the savings from officers were operational. They were operational savings, as requested by members. Let me make that clear. And, point of order.
Who's the...
Chairman, can I have clarity? The leader's just said something about myself and Councillor Fluker, and I'd like clarity on what she was referring to. Because, and also, is this a leader's speech? Or are we talking about a budget? Because I'm actually lost.
I'm having to answer. Councillor Stamp, I'm having to answer the points made. I made the. I was. Well, I can do it. That's why I've given my right to do so. Because obviously.
Only for 5 minutes, Leader. Please. Please move on.
Well, Chairman, I will, and I make those points. To me, what is important is our residents. They showed through the survey what was important to them. We have made savings, but what we're assuring through this budget tonight is we're keeping services that are important to our residents, important that we support and guide them through this crisis. And going forward, yes, there will be difficult decisions to make, but it's also imperative that this council has the proper informed information for members to consider going forward in terms of impacts and risks, and they're clear. And I did mention about outsourcing and shared services and other aspects will have to come into the equation. Chairman, I'll close it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, members, now we come to the vote, and I forgot to mention the Local Government Finance Act 1992, Section 106. Councillor Helm, the debate is finished, but... Can we have a recorded vote? Oh, yeah, I'm just reading this out. Will any member affected by Section 106 please note that any declaration to that effect should be made on the commencement of the meeting, immediately on or arrival, if this is later. Under Section 106, a member who does not pay an amount due in respect of their council tax for at least 2 months after it becomes payable is precluded from voting on any matters affecting the level of council tax or the arrangements for administering the council tax. The member is, however, entitled to vote. And then I believe that goes on then to say a recorded vote will be required by law. So you needn't move that. Miss Bird, will you call the roll, please? Those for say agree, and those against, and abstain.
Thank you, Chairman. And just to confirm, this is for all the recommendations contained in reports 9A
Yes.
to 9E.
Yes.
Thank you. Starting with Councillor Bassinger, please.
Agree.
Councillor Miss Beale.
For.
Councillor Brian Beale.
For.
Councillor Bell.
Against.
Councillor Boyce.
For.
Councillor Mrs Channer.
For.
Councillor Dewick.
Abstain.
Councillor Doran.
For.
Councillor Mrs Fleming. Agree. Councillor Fluker.
Against.
Councillor Hurd.
For.
Councillor Helm.
Against.
Councillor
Against.
Housman.
For.
Councillor Hull.
For.
Councillor Lagan.
4, please, Tara.
Thank you. Councillor Mays.
4.
Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Morley.
For.
Councillor Nunn.
For.
Councillor Shaughnessy.
4.
Councillor Siddle.
4.
Councillor Spenceley.
4.
Councillor Stamp.
Against.
Councillor Stevens.
4.
Councillor Mrs Stilts.
4.
Councillor Swain.
For.
Councillor Mrs Thompson.
4.
And Councillor White.
4.
Chairman, the results of that are 23 for, 4 against and 1 abstention. Thank you, Chairman.
That then is resolved, and thank you, members. A very lively debate, I think.
15.
And now I intend to move agenda item 15 up.
Chairman, point of order. Sorry, Chairman, just as a point of clarity, and I'm still.
Well, it's a point of order or a point of clarity?
Well, point of order, Chairman. In relation to what was said earlier, and I think we should clarify this. I know you're unhappy, but under Rule 1, which I'll speak to, 13B of the Council and Committee Procedure Rules, that speaks specifically to no alternative proposal or amendment. And I made it absolutely clear, Chairman, that this was amendment and nothing else.
Well,
so I think the Councillor Channer should apologise to myself. She should apologise to myself and Councillor Stamp.
Councillor Fluker, I read any proposal as any motion, because a motion is a proposal. Councillor, Mr. Quelch.
As you rightly pointed out, Chairman, sub-rule 13 little b talks about in the budget meeting, no alternative proposal or amendment to that being recommended, and then it goes through the process that needs to be followed, which I think we all agree on and has been followed by Councillor Fluker. But it does say no alternative proposal or amendment. In other words, you can have an alternative proposal or you can have an amendment. As I understand it, Chairman, Chairman has ruled that what was being put forward is an alternative proposal, not an amendment. So my understanding as monitoring officer is that the Chairman has liberty to determine, as the person presiding at the council meeting, whether this is an alternative proposal or whether it is an amendment. And I understand that the chairman has so ruled.
Yeah. Thank you.
Chairman, I'm really getting concerned about what's going on, Chairman, because on the 13th of February, I wrote to the monitoring officer and he acknowledged my email where I clearly speak to an amendment. So I think for you
raised
to...
a point of order and it's been responded to. Please sit down. I now move agenda item 15 up to be the next item. Leader, would you like to put this paper, please?
Oh dear. Thank you, Chairman. I hope my computer lasts out. Well, Chairman, this is a report, and 1.1 describes about at the Statutory Resources Committee what occurred on the 26th of January, and the motion coming forward tonight regarding the corporate plan covers that, and the recommendations there too, Chairman, little 1 and little 2, that members approve the corporate plan 2023-2027 attached to Appendix 1, that to ensure the Council achieves strategy through to delivery. Members also support recommended next steps. They include the service plans 2023-24 to be approved by the corporate leadership team end of April for a review of key performance indicators to take place in June. There's the items there, Chairman, before you regarding resourcing, and I'm not going to read it word by word, and then the conclusions, Chairman. As you will recall, I'm sure, members had the opportunity to attend 2 engagement sessions, and a fair number of members turned up. It was a very good presentation given by Georgina Button at that time, very clear, and members had it explained to them, and it was also sent out to them, that presentation, and of course we've got the corporate plan tonight. I think it's an excellent document, excellently executed. In fact, members who attended those sessions actually made those points as well. So I would like to thank the officers involved in bringing this corporate plan to this council. I'm very proud of their work, and we all should be. And I think I have to thank Paul Dodson, Richard Holmes, Chris Leslie, a CLT as well, for their guidance throughout all the matter, make sure this came forward. And Chairman, I move those recommendations, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dodson, did you wish to say anything on this?
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to bring to Council the corporate plan for 2023 to 27. Whilst it was envisaged that this plan wouldn't come to Council until following the election in May, it has been brought forward via a member motion and was able to be produced quickly because significant work had already been undertaken by officers to develop the evidence base on which the plan is built. That said, I would still like to go on the record with my thanks to all of the staff involved in the rapid production of the plan, but particularly Mrs. Georgina Button, who worked extremely hard to ensure that not only was a robust, fully evidenced plan produced so quickly, but also one that is really well presented. As members have already seen through the member briefings, which the leader referred to, the plan sets out a vision for the district to be a sustainable council, promoting growth and investment at every opportunity, to support our communities through excellent partnership working, and to maintain and improve quality of life. And it also identifies 6 key priorities that will be pursued to deliver that vision. Those are supporting our communities, enhancing and connecting our place, helping the economy to thrive, smarter finances, a greener future, and to provide good quality services. But what's important is that the plan also sets out our guiding principles and key ways of working to deliver the plan, and further embeds the golden thread of the plan for strategy through to delivery. We'll evidence that we're achieving our priorities by linking what we do through our golden thread and performance reporting framework. This enables our organisation to take our strategy through to delivery. Our corporate plan sets out our evidence-based priorities and our approach to delivery. Our annual service plans set out the statutory, non-statutory activities and projects to be delivered in the reporting fiscal year. It will also set out the resources in place to deliver the work. Each month, service plan highlight reports will be submitted to the corporate leadership team to present progress and to set out opportunities, risks and challenges that could impact delivery and seek decision making and guidance. The data and progress updates from the service plans will inform our quarterly performance reporting, and quarterly performance reporting already adapts and monitors existing and new key performance indicators. We'll ensure all staff have objectives, smart objectives, that specifically set out their work and how these are aligned to the priorities of the corporate plan. And again, as the leader said, in addition to approving the plan, members are also asked to approve the next steps
to ensure the council achieves that strategy through to delivery. And it's really important that those service plans, as I've outlined, be approved by the corporate leadership team by the end of April, and for a review of the key performance indicators to take place in June. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr Dodson. Councillor Spenceley.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to echo that I do think, and with a background in communication, that it is an absolutely fantastic report. I really do want to commend Georgina Button for her work in producing that. Unlike a lot of plans, it reads in a way that it's got very real aims and objectives and strategies within it. But I would like to draw everybody's attention to page 335 under resourcing 4.3. A service-by-service review is being undertaken to ensure that finances remain stable and allows resourcing decisions to be based on the corporate priorities. And I'll also echo what Councillor Lagan said during the budget, that as we make sure finances are stable going forward, that we really do refer to this plan. And I've looked at some of the service reviews so far, and I did make that comment on a working group. We do need to make sure that we are evaluating risks and impacts from cuts against our corporate plan. And I think that's going to be absolutely, because if we don't do that, we won't know what we can cut and what we can't. And I think that's absolutely critical, because otherwise, if we don't do that, this would just become fine words. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Sounds very sensible.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Chairman. Echo Georgina Button. She's very underrated, excellent member of this organisation. I think she's fabulous. I've just got an area of concern. The plan is brilliant. Totally agree with Councillor Spenceley. On page 341 of the plan, it actually says how we will do this. And it says effective negotiation and use of developer contributions. Now, we all know how much I bang on about developer contributions. But I would actually ask about how the council's going to do that. We've got pots of money sitting that hasn't already been spent for the current housing that's been delivered for this district. And I would actually ask when that's going to be delivered. And also it says what we want to achieve, Chairman, on page 343, attract new businesses to locate, grow and thrive across the district. The only way we're going to do that is if we get better broadband, better connectivity. You're never going to attract businesses to Burnham, Southminster, Dengie or Bradwell, because you haven't got the infrastructure connections to be able to do it. So, Chairman. So I actually agree with this, but I'd like to know how we're going to do it. It's like the leader's speech, which you made with the budget. You know, it's all very good, all these words, but we aren't achieving what we should be achieving. And let's hope that this plan, it is an excellent plan. And I could thank Mr Dodson for delivering it. But we actually do need to see results, Chairman, not another paper exercise that we're not actually scrutinising and bringing anything forward from it. Thank you, Chairman.
Anybody else? Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, thank you. To be honest with you, I think it's a wonderfully easy document and to understand, and I think it certainly will support the new cohort of members who come to this council. There was talk about delaying this. Look, you know, in some ways I feel slightly unease with myself insofar as the fact that I brought forward the motion that accelerated this process. But I will just say this, Chairman. When I brought forward that motion, it could have been possible to have taken that motion to the next meeting of Strategy and Resources. But for whatever reason, and I did ask, it never happened. And I think with the permission of the Chairman, it could have done. And who knows, on that day, the motion could have fallen. But we know what happened next, and because of that, 6 weeks were lost in this process. But I think you're absolutely right. Ms Button should be commended, and her team, for what they've put into this, Chairman, because I do think it is a good document and they've achieved it quickly. I don't think that the delivery of this document should be looked upon as an exception driven by a motion to council. I think moving forward we should look upon this as the norm. I think that we should set officers challenging timelines to deliver projects. I mean, I speak briefly, Chairman, to the local development plan review and to the corporate projects. We need to set tight, challenging timelines to get these done. Obviously, the local development plan review, there's certain statutory elements to that, but we need to set timelines. Chairman, there is something in this where I just like to give the strategy and policy team, if that's the right way round, just a little bit of a steer. On page 347, they're talking about creating less waste. Now, I often think that waste often is generated by not dividing up your recycling properly and commingling. Now, I think the local development plan team need to take on board the fact that we need a policy that where we've got apartment blocks, we don't commingle all the waste. We had a pre-app the other day where it's quite obvious, Chairman, 20 apartments, all of the waste from those just goes into one commingled bin. Now, I know this happens in my own ward from, for example, Cherry Orchard, which was built in the 80s, but that was the 80s. You know, we're now into a completely different time, and we should be making sure through the local development plan that we support these policies moving forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak. Now, I'm the Chairman of Strategy and Resources, and as I've said previously, it's quite a tricky committee because there's lots of different views, there's lots of experienced councillors. It makes it, you know, quite an involved committee. But now, Councillor Fluker proposed bringing forward the corporate plan to be in place alongside the budget. And it was a split vote. Now, sometimes being chairman is a difficult job and you have to make difficult decisions, and this was one of those. And I sat there and I thought, actually, we've got so many constraints, so many problems going forwards. Who knows what's going to happen for the next electorate, the next members that come in. So I sat there and I thought, actually, I think this is a good idea because this will give a steer to the new members. It will be one less job for them to do when they come into power. And it'll make it simplified so they can concentrate on the jobs that need doing because we all have so many jobs to do. So I actually voted in favour of this. I had the casting vote. Now, I had, unfortunately, the poor directors, they hung their heads in their hands. I got lots of gasps and groans, and I don't think I was very popular. But anyway, off we went, and the officers managed to deliver. And what can I say? They managed it. The CLT, Georgina Button, Paul Dodson, Richard Holmes, Chris Leslie, they managed a massive task and delivered a robust plan on time. They managed to do this in a matter of weeks. So, although it was difficult, although it's done, it's a working plan. It can be updated, and I'd like to commend everybody who brought this forwards. I think we did a fantastic job, and it will make the administration easier for the next members. Thank you very much.
Would you like to sum up, Leader?
Thank you very much, Chairman, for allowing me to do that. I think much of what has been said is accurate and, in fact, illustrates some of my views myself. And I'm very pleased that Georgina Button and her team have been actually praised by members in this chamber. And she's an excellent officer. What I would say about the corporate plan, I hear what the Chairman of Strategy and Resources said, but as I said in my leader's speech, there was work ongoing. I can tell you, I know that it's a well-evidenced plan, which was very, very important, because I did ask to see the evidence, and it has all been applied appropriately, so we know that is a real, secure, profound document that will take this council forward. Of course, an element is very much clear. It will tie up our priorities going forward, our services. Georgina Button highlighted the golden thread in presentations to members, and I referred to that in my leader's speech. Also, a very important part, of course, is the service review as well, exercise, which I referred to, and going forward. So the two things together certainly will be putting this council going forward in the right place for the incoming administration. And you heard what Mr Dodson said. This plan was going to be coming forward, and it would have come forward to members. What happened was slight change of events. The engagements for members was already in the diaries, and so members would have had an input before actually seeing the final document. But what happened was, of course, the document came out, and then the engagement allowed Georgina Button to take members through that. But I wholeheartedly agree, and I thank also all the officers in this. I'm very proud of them, and they should be very proud of themselves. They've done this council and the residents of this district very proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Members agree?
Agree.
Thank you. We then go to agenda item 7, And the first item is A, Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Agenda Item 6, Review of Scrutiny Work Plan, Planning Decision Making, and there's a recommendation there. Councillor Helm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take advice on this because it says the minutes have not been approved by the committee. So
Yes.
can I proceed with this or not?
Yes, of course you can. Yes.
Right. Item 6, Review of Scrutiny Work Plan, Planning Decision Making, recommendations that the Council adopts and pursues the following initiatives. Review and refresh of the Planning Appeals Protocol. View and conclusions on members' training, limited to concentrating on bespoke and specialised training. No reference to related committee structure, decisions, making arrangements. And it says here, review and improvements of officer recommendation. And that's as far as I can go, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Members agree? No. Councillor Fluker, Councillor Lagan.
Chairman, I'm a bit confused about this, Chairman, because the recommendation is that the council adopts and pursues.
Microphone.
Hello, Southminster. Chairman, I'm a bit confused because the recommendation is that council adopts and pursues. It seems quite a strange recommendation. I can sort of understand the adopts, but how do we pursue? What does that actually mean? And it says review and refresh of the planning appeals protocol. And I don't know, I've tried to find out what the planning appeals protocol is, and I don't know what the overview and scrutiny committee is speaking to. I mean, it might be, I don't know if this came out of a working group, but if it did, maybe someone, if Councillor Helm didn't chair it, someone maybe else has. And it says views and conclusions on member training, limited to concentrate on bespoke and specialised training. Well, I thought we've sort of done that anyway. But the one that really concerns me is this review and improvement of officer reports. So are we talking about reports that go to planning meetings? Because, you know, I really don't think that should be in there. Review and improvement of officer reports. I mean, generally speaking, members, I don't have any problem with the reports that go to South East Area Planning Committee. I find them quite concise. I think they've got all the detail in there. If there are any questions about any subjective matters of planning, I think the officers deal with those quite succinctly and clearly. But I really don't think that should be in there. And I think, Chairman, that it's not appropriate, really, to say that
Councillor Helm will tell you the answer, Councillor.
Well, I hope so. I don't like it at all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Fluker.
I did warn you.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I don't understand it.
It's quite simple, really. Some of the reports are
to me,
very...
not to Councillor Fluker, please.
Some of the reports vary vastly, and we wanted to have a set process of reports rather than some people have this and some people have that. We want to have a standard reporting system. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Helm. Any Councillor Lagan? And Councillor Morgan.
So I'm going to be short. It's yeah, I was a little bit worried about, not worried, but intrigued and curious about what the word refresh of the planning appeals protocol. So what the word refresh actually meant. And a bit like Councillor Fluker, although I disagree with him, I don't particularly like the reports the way that they come, but the reports are subjective. You know, I think that should be something, a piece of work that we maybe should look at, and how the reports are structured, because sometimes they are so big, and I completely understand, as chair of the District Planning Committee currently, that without the support of Mr Johnson and Devon last meeting, I would have really struggled, because we needed that expertise because of the level of detail that was in there. So I actually think there is merit in this, as long as we get clarity of what they actually, the work actually is.
Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps I could help out Councillor Fluker by saying that it is planning reports we're talking about, and in particular, the reports on enforcement, which I don't know how other members here, but the current enforcement reports are about as intelligible as a Chinese guard report, and badly need to be made more intelligible for members, broken down to wards, etc., so it can be more helpful in support of our residents. That's basically what I'm thinking.
Thank you. You can't come back, Councillor Fluker. Councillor Helm, would you like to answer anything, or do you want me to put it to the vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Enforcement wasn't mentioned in this at all at that time. Thank you.
Councillor Spenceley.
Right, okay, so it was more to do with looking at, and we did speak to planning officers as part of the working group exercise. There was a whole report that came with this where we looked at, for example, a glossary for complex terms that people might not understand, making sure that we didn't have abbreviations and acronyms that weren't wanted, and also sometimes condensing some of the information, and also in the reports providing where it was possible reasons for refusal as well as acceptance, so that you know where that was possible. There's a whole report on it that went with this, so that's what that's about. And actually here it doesn't make much sense because in the motion it is condensed. In terms of the member training, that was something that we all felt was needed, and it's been discussed here, hasn't it, before? And review and refresh of the planning appeals protocol. There is actually a planning appeals protocol, and it was about having that reviewed and refreshed. So I think that's it, really. Thank you.
I'll put the recommendation. Do you agree with the recommendation, or are you opposed to the recommendation? Agreed. Right. Then we go on to SNRB, Strategy Resources, agenda item 6, notice of motion. Councillor White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll stand for these. This motion's already been done under agenda item 15. But if I may, I'll move on to agenda item 11, which is the Council Tax Support Scheme 23-24, with a recommendation. And the recommendation is little 1, that the following changes to the existing schemes are approved. A cost of living increase in line with the Department for Work and Pension Schemes be included in the Local Council Tax Support Scheme for 23-24 for pensioners only. Little B, that any legislative changes being introduced to the Housing Benefit Scheme for 23-24 are mirrored in the Council's LCTS to ensure consistency. Little C, that minor technical amendments to ensure that we are able to administer the scheme reflecting current local and national guidance, and that we may disregard anything determined to be a local welfare payment from our calculation. Little D, that provision to award up to a £25 discount to eligible LCTS recipients for 23-24 only. Little 2, that these decisions have been made following members' careful reading of and regard to the equality impact assessments at Appendix 1. Little 3, that members note the framework for the hardship provision at Appendix 2. And little 4, that the policy document at Appendix 3 be approved, Chairman.
Do you agree with those recommendations? Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, I'll now move on to agenda item 12, which is the council tax discretionary discount levels. There's a recommendation here as well. Little 1, that the following changes are approved to have effect from the 1st of April 24. A, an empty home premium of 100% is levied on properties empty for longer than 1 year. B, the council tax for second homes, which are no one's sole or main residence, is increased by 100% through the application of a premium at the maximum permitted amount. Little 2, that no changes are made to the Council Section 13A1C discretionary reduction policy to specifically deal with empty properties which are being marketed for sale. And little 3, that these decisions are reviewed as part of the budget setting process for 24-25 and annually thereafter, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Members agree?
Chairman, bearing in mind my interest at the beginning, can we make clear that I did not vote in any way, shape or form on that item? Thank you.
Okay, Ms Bird will note that, won't you?
Yes, Chairman, of course.
Okay, I'm still on the Strategy and Resources minutes. Agenda item 13, the pay policy statement. There's a recommendation that the pay policy statement attached at Appendix 4 be adopted for 2023, Mr. Chairman.
Members agree?
Agreed. Okay.
Next one.
Agenda item 14, Malden Citizens Advice Funding Request. It's recommended that members consider applying an inflationary increase of 6% to the advice services contract totalling 4,500. Please note that the following recommendations coming forward from this committee are not for consideration at this point, as they form part of agenda item 92324, budget and mini-term financial strategy, due to be considered at this meeting, which would capital investment strategies for 23-24, a minimum reserve statement 23-24, medium-term financial strategy 23-24 to 25-26, revised 22-23 estimates, original 23-24 budget estimates and council tax 23-24, and treasury management 23-24, which was the Strategy and Resources Committee 9th of February 23, which was the continuation of the meeting held on the 26th of January, Mr Chairman.
The only thing we need to consider here is the recommendation that members consider applying an inflationary increase of 6% to the advice service contract totaling 4,500. Councillor Fluker.
Oh, I hear all the huffs and puffs to the left as I stand to speak about CAB. Chairman, you know, I can remember when Mr Pickles used to come into this chamber and we had some quite robust conversations about funding for CAB. But I think, look, I think we all recognise what CAB does and what pressures it takes off of this council. But I would ask you all to consider at what cost, because there is a lot of creep involved in this now. It keeps creeping up and up and up. And I sympathise that their core reason for asking for this additional money, I think, is based around inflation. Well, we all suffer inflation. This council suffers inflation, and we all have to, you know, cut our cloth accordingly. I mean, the CAB, I mean, I don't know if they're talking about the running costs. I think if they are, then as far as I understand, that apart from their light, heat and gas, we may actually pay for their telephone as well, from what I heard the other day in these offices, although I stand corrected on that. Chairman, they are well funded. I know that they have reserves, and I know that they've got ring-fenced reserves, but I think, Chairman, that there comes a point where the decision really is whether or not we take the equivalent of 1% of our deficit out of our reserves. And this figure is not included in the budget, as far as I'm aware. So it would be an additional 4,500. You know, Chairman, my view is, does it represent good value? I look at what the CAB does, and the CAB performs a very good duty. But we must remember that their argument is always that if we don't give them the extra money every year or every 3 years, then all of the things that they do will fall back on to Malden District Council to do. Well, none of the duties that they perform are, I understand from Miss Green, statutory duties. I mean, members will see that there's an update gone out today from Miss Green to all members, which shows their accounts and it shows everything else. So they're not actually performing statutory duties. So they're providing a service which, if needs be, we wouldn't have to provide for anyway, because nothing they do is statutory. So, you know, we've got a deficit of £420,000, you know, and rather nicely, this represents adding another 1% to that. Where does this all stop? My feeling is, Chairman, that the CAB should be encouraged to go away, as they have done in the past when Mr Pickles came here, to raise more funding from the sources they have available. We do have a pop-up bank downstairs, but Chairman, this is not the Bank of Malden District Council. We will be taking money out of reserves in addition to 420,000 that we're already taking out to support them. I think this year, Chairman, I'm afraid I can't support the request.
Councillor Lagan.
Thank you. Completely disagree with everything Councillor Fluker says. I think when you look at what Miss Green's report put through, just on the saving of homelessness alone, £4,500 at £12 a day, it provides excellent value for money, and is a terrific service to the district. So I would recommend that we approve this recommendation.
Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, at Strategy and Resources, I did move the recommendation that we agreed to this inflationary rise. They have actually been invaluable to this council and our residents. Certainly through COVID, they gave a great deal of assistance regarding issues to do with housing matters and everything. I hear what Councillor Fluker says, but I can tell you that if we didn't have the Citizens Advice Bureau doing what they do provide for our residents, the amount of inquiries they get and the amount of advice they give, we could find ourselves actually receiving a lot more than we do. And I don't know about Councillor Fluke and other members, but I actually get from the Citizens Advice Bureau, something regarding my ward, and actually to me I can see the amount of benefit they do bring, not only to my ward, but if that's reflected across all the other wards on this council, they are, as I said earlier, invaluable for what they deliver and do. And as you know, on the night of SNR, initially I think there was a request for further funding, but indeed they did prove that they do go and get funding, and hence we were left with the inflationary request, I think, for £4,500. And I think that £4,500 will deliver great dividends to our residents and to this council. And I wholly recommend the work that they do. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Channell's actually just covered part of it. CAB finance has been brought up in this chamber for the last 12 years. We've argued it backwards and forwards many, many times. They have done absolutely fantastic work, particularly over the pandemic period. Members of SNR will know that when we arrived at the meeting, we were expecting to be asked for considerably more. And when the chairman, I think it was, I can't remember his name, his first words were, actually, members, I don't need that amount of money because we've been out and we've got additional funding from elsewhere, which is exactly what we advised the CAB to do many, many years ago, to not be solely relying on Malden District Council for their funding. So they did what we asked. And I don't think that this additional £4,500 is unreasonable, because we could be sitting here looking to agree considerably more had it not been for their fundraising.
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. We heard earlier on that we shouldn't be coming up with sort of village vanity projects, and I would emphasise this is for the whole district. It really is. It's not for any one individual village. A village that might come high on a deprivation register might benefit even more, but it really is for everybody. And it may be that they're not providing what we perceive to be something that we must do as a statutory duty. But when somebody comes into the Citizens Advice, it might take 2 hours to get to the bottom of what their problems are. 2 hours that one of our officers could spend 3 or 4 hours on because they're not experienced at it. So it's not clear cut that somebody's requirement is this. When they come in, they might just come in with a bin bag full of problems, unopened bills, all sorts. Our officers can't just say, I'm not dealing with that, go away. If the CAB weren't there and that person were to come into our officers, into the front door, and just dissolve into floods of tears with a load of gas bills or something, what do I do with this? What do I do with these demands? You can't just turn somebody like that out of the door and say, I don't do that. So somebody has got to do that for that person. We're not equipped. The council doesn't have the knowledge, the ins and outs of what might be available to that person. So it's only the Citizens Advice who can do that. I don't see any option there. Thank you.
Councillor Swain.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think from reading some of the supplementary information that's been put around by Mrs. Green, that they had greatly expanded their activity over the last year, which is perhaps one reason why they need some extra support. But I think the key point here is we go on talk on and on about supporting the community, but I think there are distinct limits to what the district council can do as such. And if we can do it indirectly through supporting other voluntary activities, as we are doing here with CAB, then that is a very good use of resources to do something that we can't do in supporting the community.
Thank you, Councillor White. Members, do you agree with this recommendation? Those in favour? Those against? No, right, one. One half-hearted one. Councillor White.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm nearly at the end, thankfully. Okay, and we've got at the Strategy and Resources Committee on the 9th of February 23, which was the continuation of the meeting held on the 26th of January, on pages 61 to 96, agenda item 16, statement of consultation, the local development plan review, issues and options documents, recommended that the statement of consultation on the Malden District Council local development plan review, regulation 18, issues and options document attached as Appendix 1 be noted. Mr. Chairman.
Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. Very remiss of me. At Strategy and Resources, I did, when this item came up, declare an interest as much as to say that regarding responses to the consultation, that now we've got the statement of consultation responses coming before us, that some friends, acquaintances, and indeed my partner did respond, Chairman. So I just wanted that put on record. Thank you.
Thank you. Members agree the recommendation?
No, Chief.
Well, I think it's yeah, okay. Agenda item 8 minutes meeting of the council. There's several there. Any questions on any of those? Agreed. Then we go to agenda item 10, which I'm moving to tomorrow, unless we get
14's not needed.
Agenda item 11 is questions in accordance with procedure rule 6.3, of which notice has been given. I don't think there have been any. Tara?
We have got no questions.
Thank you. Agenda item 12, business rate discretionary rate relief scheme on pages 269 to 320. Leader?
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Helm.
Own business premises and they all pay rates.
Thank you, Chairman. This is coming before members to approve, obviously, the discretionary non-domestic rate relief scheme, which is at Appendix 1. Members will note that under summary of issues, during the statement made by the Chancellor in the autumn, there's some measures to support businesses from April 2023, and the 3 bullet points indicate what those are, Chairman. The appendices has the amended policy, and I do want to point out it's for granting of the new reliefs in line with the published guidance, and to say these measures are fully funded by central government. And members are asked to in particular note the policy appendices, local newspaper relief, and supporting and small business relief, and 2023 retail, hospitality and leisure relief. Chairman, so I move that recommendation that this council, the proposed discretionary non-domestic rate relief scheme at Appendix 1 be approved, Chairman. Thank you.
Am I expecting a declaration of interest here? Right, Councillor White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just realised that I pay business rates in the Malden district, so I'll leave the chamber. Thank you.
Councillor Fleming.
I note that Councillor Hurd left the chamber because he owns premises that pay business rates.
Councillor
So just some, Councillor Helm.
Yeah.
So just some clarity from the monitoring officer. Do we need to exit the chamber? Thank you.
I don't think so.
No one left.
It doesn't because it's sorry. As I said, there's 3 categories, isn't there? There's disclosable pecuniary interest, there's other registrable interests, and there's non-registrable interests. So you've got to fit yourself into one of those 3 categories.
Mr. Chairman, I think I will leave the room and declare an interest as owning business premises.
Oh, yeah.
Well, everyone seems to be going.
That wasn't very helpful. You really made us inquire. I'm sure there's an exemption on this. There is for council tax, so there should be for business.
Well, Chairman, I was just about to actually explain. I said there's 3 categories. I was just about to explain that the non-domestic rates do not go to the owners of the businesses. They go to the council. So I can't see immediately how there is a connection. Now, it could be argued that this particular policy will mean that people will be able to continue to stay in their businesses if they get relief. So I suppose that's where there may be a connection, but it's quite remote.
Yeah. Okay. Leader, do you want to say something? Or,
Well, yes, Chair.
because I want to move this recommendation and
Well, it's
get
just
everybody back.
it's just in response. I thought it might help Councillor Fleming. A very learned member of this council who's no longer here, Councillor Mrs. Peel, always had a mantra: if in doubt, get out.
Yeah. Do members agree this paper, this recommendation? Agree? Right. Will somebody, Ron, can you get back? Right. What's the next one?
The next one is
District and Parish Council elections.
13.
Yeah.
13. 13. Is this Mr. Dodson? Richard, is it the poll?
Is anybody else coming back?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's a few gone missing further through. They'll be back in a minute.
Yeah.
We do that.
Right. Yeah.
Chairman, I know you've had to mop up behind members lots of times, but can I remind everybody to leave the facilities as they found them? Thank you.
Sorry, Chairman. This is
Mrs. Fleming has. I think I'll move on in her absence. 13 District and Parish Council elections, page 321 to 322. I'll go straight to Mr. Dodson.
Thank you, Chairman. This paper seeks for Council to delegate power to the Council's returning officer to make any changes to polling places required due to unforeseen circumstances between now and polling day on the 4th of May, and also seeks approval for 2 changes that currently are known. Members will recall that we used a different polling place for the Essex County Council elections and the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner election, as well as the Heybridge East by-election, since the school in Heybridge could not accommodate us on polling day. We approached Heybridge Swifts Football Club and they agreed that we could use their clubhouse. The accommodation is better placed in terms of location and being able to set up 2 polling stations instead of just 1 because of the space. No complaints were received relating to the change of polling station, so it will be useful to use that again and to have the extra space to assist with the new regulations regarding the need for voters to show ID before they can take their ballot paper. With regard to the Malden East polling station, again for Essex County Council and Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner election, members agreed we would use the Malden Stadium instead of the dance studio at Blackwater Leisure Centre, since the stadium had more space, more car parking and direct access, whereas the dance studio didn't. With voters having to go round the leisure centre to get to the polling station at the back, member approvals sought to use the stadium again for the same reasons. With regard to the Mayland polling station, this was designated as Lawling Park Hall last time, due to Henry Samuel Hall undergoing renovations, but members should note that these have now been completed and the proposal is to return to Henry Samuel Hall as this is within the polling district. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Is that, Mr. Dodson, is that for tonight or do we have to approve it?
It needs approving for the reference to the delegation and to those 2 that are being formally
Councillor
moved.
Stan.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just actually err on the side of caution for the Henry Samuel Hall? That is really difficult and a dangerous piece of road to get in and out of there. Beautiful, they are renovating it. I don't know if it's completed yet.
Mr. Dodson's just said it is completed.
I know, I think he's wrong.
People have been voting.
I think he's wrong, but that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
But all I'm saying is, Chairman, be aware it is a dangerous piece of road.
Yeah. Councillor Durham. Councillor White.
Chairman, it's a question really, and I'm sure there's an answer. We've received information that our pre-election period starts on the 13th of March, which is at least a week, and in some cases 2 weeks before other authorities who have got elections on the 4th of May.
Mr Dodson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's purposely set on the 13th of March, which is the first day that we can go into the pre-election period as a local authority. But given the number of candidates potentially registering during that period, you know, obviously it's the district council and all of the parishes that are out for election. I wanted to give the officers and those candidates as much time as possible to manage the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's quite amusing, actually, because Councillor Stamp has just picked up on what I picked up on. It's a very small car park, and it is a really, really dangerous road and bend coming out of the Henry Samuel Hall. And I actually preferred it when we used the Lawling Park Hall. So I wondered if there was any way we could, for safety and parking, look to moving it back or somewhere else.
Mr Dodson, that seems to be a very valid point. Would that give you a problem?
I would like to take it away and review it, please, Chairman, because I think the Lawling Hall was outside of the area, so we'd need to look at it. It was by exception, so that's why we did it by exception. So I'd have to look at it again before making a decision.
Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. But the recommendation actually gives the returning officer that flexibility, because it says, you know, the council delegates authority to the returning officer to decide on suitable alternative venues should any designated polling station become unavailable. So the recommendation as it sits does give that opportunity to look at alternatives if there's issues.
Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry, I should have been in touch with the returning officer about this before, but with regards Southminster, and perhaps he'll give me a nod, I presume you're going to be using one of the facilities on King George V playing field? As if you would know all of them. That's put you on the pot. Yeah, okay. Can I just ask you to be mindful that in the past, the building that you've used won't be available. I understand that arrangements are in place for you to use one of the buildings down there, but can you also be mindful of the fact that there are some proposed roadworks to be carried out around both of the halls? And perhaps if I can just ask you to liaise with the clerk at Southminster Parish Council to ensure that nothing's carried out on polling day. Thank you.
Members agree? Yeah. Agree. Thank you. We go to 14, we don't need now, thanks to Councillor Ron Pratt and helping Councillor Bill get in. So we'll go on to 16 then, to business by reason of special circumstances considered by the chairman to be urgent. I had no such business. Agenda item 17. I put the following motion to resolve that under section. Councillor Helm, did you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item appeared on the website as a normal item. It was taken down on the Friday and then appeared on the Monday night as private confidential. I was not asked my permission to do this. It was done without my authority, and I want to know why.
Right, thank you. Mr. Dodson or Mr. Quelch here? It's a conduct issue, it says.
Is he about to
Yeah, I think it was because, respectfully, Chairman, I don't think it requires the Chairman of Overview and Scrutiny's permission to deal with agendas. That is constitutionally the responsibility of the Director of Performance Governance and Strategy Performance and Governance, the responsibility on agendas. So it doesn't require, respectfully, Chairman, any member's authority, even the chairman of a committee on that. There was a potential. there was a potential P&C matter, and it's the responsibility of officers, if there is a potential P&C matter, to ensure that is treated as such on the agenda, so that members have the opportunity, before reports go out to members of the public, or if they have gone out, to make sure they don't continue to be made public, so that then the council can decide whether it is a P&C item. And that was the decision here, as I understand it.
Thank you, Mr. Quelch. I'll then go back to exclusion. To resolve that under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business, on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 2 of part 1 of schedule 12A to the Act, and this satisfies the public interest test in relation to the notice of motion referral conduct issue.
Seconded.
Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Agreed. Can we put the recommendation